Hey friends, welcome back to episode 922 of the Money Girl podcast. I'm your host, Laura Adams. I'm an award-winning author, spokesperson, speaker, founder of The Money Stack, that's my Substack newsletter, and host of Money Girl with over 44 million downloads. I would love for you to connect with me and learn more at my website, lauradadams.com. Did you know that during tax refund time in the spring, one of the most popular purchases Americans make is used vehicles? If you're thinking about buying your next car, I have some good news. There are ways to pay less if you follow some expert tips. That's why I'm excited to be joined by an auto industry expert, Jessica Tavares. She's the Assistant Vice President for Enterprise Car Sales, which is part of Enterprise Mobility. She started her career within Enterprise's daily rental business. She's got decades of experience overseeing high-performing dealerships in several major metro areas. She and her teams have earned company awards for excellence in customer service. She got a bachelor's degree in business administration and management from the University of South Florida. As you'll hear in today's interview, Jessica and I talk about what's happening in the new and used car markets, why buying a nearly new vehicle saves you a lot of money, answers to common questions that car buyers often ask. We cover tips for individuals and families to prepare your finances before buying a vehicle. We talk about how buying a car online improves your shopping experience, whether you should sell or trade in your old vehicle, and some resources at enterprisecarsales.com like their car payment calculator. And I'll have a link to that in the show notes. And we talk about more. We have a great conversation, so enjoy my interview with Jessica. Jessica, thank you so much for coming on the Money Girl podcast. I am really excited to have you.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm excited to dive into this really important topic.
Let's start with just a little bit about you. I'd love to know, what's your background? How did you get into this career? Just, how you got into the automotive industry in the first place.
Sure. I'm an assistant vice president for Enterprise Car Sales, which is part of Enterprise Mobility. Many people know and trust the Enterprise name because of our rental car business, but we also have a wide range of offerings under Enterprise Mobility, which includes car rental, car sales, fleet management, truck rental, and so much more. I actually recently just celebrated my 20th anniversary with the organization and started in the rental car business before moving into car sales. I've actually been with car sales for over a decade now, and I've absolutely loved it. During these last 10 years, I've overseen dealerships in several metro areas, including Tampa, St. Petersburg, Southwest Florida, Boston, and Philadelphia. I'm proud to share that the teams I've managed have earned company awards for excellence in customer service. And, being in this industry for so many years, customer interactions that are involved when purchasing a vehicle is, critically an important financial decision. And I'm happy to talk through this process today.
Awesome. Yeah, being in this industry for 20 years is amazing. So you've probably seen a lot of changes happen. And I think for me, I really started paying attention to the automotive industry during the pandemic. We saw so many changes and sort of crazy shortages and things happening with prices. I'd love for you to just talk a little bit about, maybe why some of that happened, what happened to the industry, and then where we've come since then.
Sure. The COVID-19 pandemic brought significant changes, as we all saw, to the auto industry, and it really exposed some vulnerabilities in that global supply chain, particularly with chip shortages. This resulted in production delays, fewer vehicles available on dealer lots, which then subsequently drove up prices for both new and used cars. As an example, at the end of 2021, the average used car price in the market was over $28,000, which was up from under $20,000 pre-pandemic. Right now, based on Kelley Blue Book data from March of 2025, the average used vehicle price is about $25,000, which is down from the height of the pandemic, but still up pre-pandemic. But one thing I think it's important to mention is during this time, vehicle technology and safety features have really improved significantly, which is also contributing to those higher costs that we're seeing today.
Yeah, so, that's definitely a good thing. We want more safety features in cars. But yeah, because prices have increased so much, for a lot of people buying a brand new car just, isn't affordable. And I think that's why many people are turning to nearly new or pre-owned, whatever we want to call them, vehicles that have had a prior owner. It just makes them so much more affordable. And if they're in good shape, I just think that's such a smart decision. I have always been a big proponent of buying pre-owned vehicles because I just think there's a really good value there. And I'm sure you agree. So I'd love to hear a little bit about sort of the benefits that you think people get from buying a used vehicle. Why do you think that perhaps is a smarter financial decision?
Yes, well, I absolutely agree with you. And actually, data from Cox Automotive suggests the average used car prices are around 50% less than new vehicle prices. And I mentioned this earlier, but in March, the average used car price was around 25,000 compared to $48,000 for a new vehicle. So the depreciation savings alone that you see on used versus new is quite significant. And on average, new cars depreciate at about 30% over the first 2 years and continue to depreciate 8 to 12% each year after that. And I think for so many people, that's why, purchasing that nearly new vehicle or one that is 1 to 3 years old is such a sweet spot for so many customers. And at the end of the day, many customers are just looking for quality, reliability, and value.
Yeah. So let's go back and reiterate that. So you're saying in the first couple of years, there's this big spike in depreciation. And then it kind of keeps happening, but at a much slower pace the older the car gets. So basically, if you buy the car after that huge spike in depreciation, that's why you're getting such a good value. Major depreciation has already happened by the time you're buying it. This is what a lot of people maybe don't understand about the used car market. It's just a smarter financial decision, in my opinion, to buy the car once you've had that major depreciation already happen. And as you said, if the car is in good shape, why not take advantage of that ability to avoid paying for the depreciation? You're talking about 50% difference. That is just a huge amount. So I appreciate you kind of laying that out because I think a lot of people maybe don't realize what a significant change there is between the new car and the used car market. And maybe what are some questions that people are asking you when they're buying a used vehicle or nearly new vehicle? I'm just curious what you're seeing from customers. Are there any points of confusion or things that they're requesting that we should make folks aware of?
Well, there's so many great questions that our customers ask, but to sum it up, it really comes down and leads to two things. Are they getting a great deal and are they buying a quality product? Right. And I think, with the car buying experience, really consumers are looking to seek an easy and transparent experience that gives them that sense of control and the feeling that they're being understood and listened to. After all, this is their car purchase. But sometimes the current process may leave some consumers feeling anxious or stressed, indicating a gap between what their expectation is and what's actual reality. And that's why at Enterprise Car Sales, we create a transparent purchase process with a one point of contact from start to finish.
I love that because I agree with you. I think it is one of the most nerve wracking, maybe next to buying a home, buying a car is maybe one of the most nerve wracking experiences. And people are doing it quite early in life, maybe, during college or even, later in high school if they're able to buy a car when they're still in school. So knowing that they're not going to have to negotiate or haggle or have some adversarial relationship with a car dealership, I think should give people a lot of confidence. I know for me, when I buy something, I want to enjoy it. I want to have fun. I don't want to feel like it's going to be a dreaded experience. Are there any trends, when we're talking about buying vehicles, are there any trends that you're seeing in the marketplace?
Yeah, I think from a consumer preference standpoint, more tools are available today online for consumers to begin their purchasing process and even actually complete the purchase 100% virtually, which is much different than what we've seen in prior years. In fact, our research shows that shoppers today actually start their search online before stepping foot into a dealership. And, while the industry is still moving for that digital experience, we still see and know a lot of customers want to test drive their vehicle before making that final purchase. Another trend that we're seeing is, as I mentioned earlier, customers want more transparency in pricing. And in enterprise car sales, the price that the customer sees is the price that they pay. And on average, the majority of the vehicles that we sell are below retail value. And with that no haggle experience that you mentioned a bit earlier, that peace of mind in making a decision, whether you're a first time buyer or not, gives you that comfortability in knowing that you made a great purchase with a nearly new vehicle.
Jessica, one question that I hear a lot is from parents who have teenagers that are getting their driver's license and, are asking for a car, or maybe they want to help their teen driver buy a car. What are some tips that you can give for families? Because it's just so expensive for so many families buying the car and adding them to their insurance. We know teen drivers have some of the highest insurance rates out there because, statistically, they're just more likely to get into an accident. So it makes giving a teen or helping a teen buy a car a stretch for a lot of families' budgets. So any tips you can give for families?
First, I think, again, this should be a really exciting time for families. Our sales team has so much fun helping parents purchase vehicle for their children. My advice to parents is simple, safety, quality, reliability for any driver, including your teenagers, is critically important. And a lot of times we see a lot of the teenagers in sedans or crossover vehicles seems to be pretty common. Something I would consider is including them in the purchase process and make sure they find a car that they're comfortable driving. No matter where you purchase from, make sure it's from a company and dealership that you trust.
I love that, including the teen in the choice. Maybe helps them get a little educated about the process and about what a vehicle costs and, everything that goes into being a vehicle owner. That's fantastic. And I do agree, having a vehicle that a teen feels comfortable driving is really important. If they feel like whatever, they can't see well out, the rear window, or just something just doesn't feel right for them, that, maybe a clue that they need something different. Yeah, that's great. And definitely it is a super exciting time. I think we all remember like the first car that we ever drove or that we bought. It's like a rite of passage. If somebody is starting their purchase online or even does the whole purchase online, tell me a little bit about what they can expect from that process. How can they find the right car? How can they begin to search? I'm sure there are tons of filters, but just give us a little bit of a peek into what that experience is like.
Well, at Enterprise Car Sales, we follow a question based sales approach so the customer can gain, a sales consultant gain an understanding of what their needs, wants, and individual circumstances are. Actually, our customer service rates on the top with Google average from 4.7 out of 5. And to keep with that digital, experience, we have an interactive and transparent purchase process through our accelerated customer experience, also known as ACE. And with ACE, it's really designed to put the customer in a driving seat working together with their sales consultant. With our ACE platform, customers can view product information, select from a variety of vehicle financing and protection products, and complete all the paperwork electronically. And with this full transparency with vehicle protection product pricing, there is no waiting room for a finance office. And I think we've talked so much about transparency so far today that this is a big part of what customers are looking for.
Yeah. So, if somebody wants to do the financing through Enterprise, what does that look like? Should they shop other lenders first, or could they feel confident that they can find enough options going through Enterprise?
Well, I mentioned it earlier, but the car buying experience is significantly digital, and we make it easy in a one-stop process. So our customers, on average, will start at enterprisecarsales.com and look for their vehicle. We even have a tool called Start My Purchase. And with this function on the website, this allows customers to complete many steps in the purchase process online. This includes, of course, shopping for inventory, the fun part, searching protection products, estimating what their trade in value could be, researching monthly payments, scheduling a test drive, and then, of course, they can even apply for financing 100% online. And as we listen to our customers, we're really excited for a major digital enhancement in the near future for enterprise car sales.
I love that. I mean, shopping online is just where most of us are these days. That's where we feel, most comfortable. But let's say you want to take it to the next level and you decide, okay, I do want to test drive one or two cars that I found. What does that next step look like? Will someone maybe try to find something from a nearby local dealer and go there? Or, maybe if they want to start at a local dealership, what does that look like? Should they make an appointment? Can they just walk in? How should they approach that in-person experience?
Well, we want to do what customers feel comfortable doing. And if they want to make a phone call into the dealership and make an appointment, that's fine. If they just want to walk in, that's absolutely fine as well. And with our digital experience, this is going to provide that customer flexibility. And we know that the majority of our customers still do want to complete their purchase inside of an enterprise car sales dealership. Our customers will be greeted by our customer experience manager and then seated with a dedicated sales consultant that's going to help them with the vehicle selection process. And once their needs are identified, we're going to pull up the car and head out for a test drive. And then, upon the customer's return, that's when the big decision needs to be made as to whether they want to pay cash or they want to consider financing. And if they're financing, they'll complete a credit application using ACE. They select their own down payment. Then ACE is going to present the customer and the sales consultant with their financing options. The customer will select their lender, they'll review their products, sign paperwork, and be on your way. And the great thing about ACE is actually a transaction can be completed in as little as 60 minutes.
That's pretty amazing. That's very fast. So that's terrific to know if you know what you want and you're ready to make the deal, it's going to happen. And tell me about what customers should think about in terms of the condition of the vehicle. Are there warranty options? How do you recommend consumers just make sure that the vehicle is the quality that they want?
Well, of course, another great thing from buying from enterprise car sales is that all of our vehicles are maintained to our quality standards. This means all of them must be ASE certified, and every vehicle comes with a 12-month, 12,000-mile limited powertrain warranty that's going to eliminate that financial worry that customers may have paying out of pocket for certain mechanical repair work during the first 12 months or 12,000 miles, whichever comes first. Also, all of our customers are eligible for enterprise mechanical repair protection for up to 125,000 miles. If a customer is not happy, Enterprise will buy the vehicle back in 7 days or 1,000 miles with no questions asked. We really do make it easy.
That's awesome. Yeah, the warranty is so important. People really need to, have that peace of mind that if something goes wrong, they're going to be okay. Let's talk about financing for a moment. You mentioned that there are some great financing options that come up, but how do you think people should prepare financially to buy a vehicle? What should they be thinking about maybe months before they decide to buy a car?
My personal recommendation is to save as much money as you can for a down payment and put down as much as you can to get the best overall term and interest rate. The more that you can invest on this down payment, the lower your costs will be and the less interest you're going to pay typically over the length of the loan. And this is going to lead to that more manageable monthly payment, which so many people are looking for. There's lots of resources that can help consumers make the calculation. For example, using an auto loan calculator can show you how down payment can actually affect that and impact that interest rate. So the second piece to that, I think, is we talked a little bit about trade-ins earlier, but really, getting it cleaned up and maximizing the value for your trade as equity is critically important in the car buying process. And, protect your asset. Consider an extended service contract. This is going to protect you financially for any large repair expenditures and give you peace of mind while you're making those monthly payments.
Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the trade-in again, because this is something that confuses a lot of people. They're really conflicted about, should I trade in? Am I going to get the best value, or am I going to get more if I try to sell the vehicle myself? I personally have always done trade-ins, provided I feel like the trade-in value is fair, it's reasonable. And for me, it's just a matter of convenience. I've just always felt like it saves time and hassle to just make it one transaction, to just kind of change vehicles, swap it in. And as long as I'm confident that I'm getting a good trade in, it feels like a win-win. So, what tips can you give somebody who's maybe just really confused about how to handle the old vehicle?
Well, I think, anytime you can have a one-stop shop and, have everything done in one swoop, I think is ideal for most customers. And I think, using the trade-in tools that we have at enterprisecarsales.com, where you can see, if you put your vehicle information in there, it's going to give you an idea of what your vehicle is going to look like. But I think it's important to remember too that knowing your trade-in value is important, but also knowing, what is the actual end result with understanding what your monthly payment will look like. Because I think that a lot of times is the determining factor as if the car is going to be affordable or not.
Yeah. And you mentioned getting your trade in ready. What are some tips for just making your car as valuable as possible?
I just think the basic little things, take it to a car wash, get it cleaned up, get all of your extra stuff out of the vehicle, get it ready for someone to purchase. And I think just that goes a long way when you're taking into a dealership and trying to get the best offer for your vehicle.
Yeah, first impressions can definitely go a long way. So, Jessica, if there was one thing that you could leave the listeners with in terms of tips for getting the best deal on their next vehicle purchase, what would it be?
Well, I know that buying a vehicle is such an important financial decision for people to make in their lifetimes. It's one of the biggest, and it's often one of the first before even buying a home. Set a budget, do your research, test drive the vehicle, and review your paperwork. Most importantly, I think throughout this process, we have to remember that buying a car should be fun. This should be a positive experience. This is going to be, your dream vehicle that you're going to see and drive every day, and never compromise on service. Customers know the enterprise name because the exceptional service they receive at our rental locations. We have those same exceptional values and strive to deliver the exceptional service at all of our dealerships.
Yeah, that's great. It definitely should be fun. Yeah, cars are fun. We want to enjoy them. They feel like an extension of ourselves. They reflect your personality, and you typically spend a lot of time in cars. My husband works in his vehicle, so he's in it a lot. I'm somebody that doesn't drive quite as much, but it really is something that you want to love. And speaking of love, you seem to love your job. I'm curious, what you love about being in the automotive industry, and maybe what you've enjoyed about your role.
Yeah, well, this industry is constantly evolving and changing every day. I've really just enjoyed the customers understand the purchase process and how to navigate buying a vehicle. I actually support dealerships across the country, and I make sure that our customers are having that positive buying experience we've talked about today. I also love working for Enterprise Car Sales because across Enterprise Mobility, we have a strong set of values that revolves around that great customer experience. And, all of us here at Enterprise Car Sales love to see the joy on customers' faces when they find that vehicle that they want at an affordable price.
Jessica, is there anything else that listeners should know? Maybe where they should go to begin their shopping experience, or just to learn more?
I would recommend that everyone that's looking to make their next spring vehicle purchase, or whenever they're ready to purchase that next vehicle, please visit our website at enterprisecarsales.com. Or, like we said earlier, feel free to stop into more than our 160 plus location dealerships across the country. We would absolutely love to help you.
Jessica, thank you so much for sharing all of your expertise and giving us some great tips for buying a vehicle.
It's been great. Purchasing a near new used vehicle can be a smart financial decision. Set your budget, do your research, and work with your retailer that you trust and that'll provide you exceptional service. It's been really so great speaking with you today.
Thanks again so much to Jessica for sharing some great car buying tips. That's all for now. I'll talk to you soon. Until then, here's to living a richer life. Money Girl is a quick and dirty tips podcast, and we have a great team that works on the show. Steve Rickyberg audio engineers the podcast. Brandon Gachus is our director of podcast. Holly Hutchins is our digital operations specialist. Morgan Christensen is our advertising operations specialist. And Nathaniel Hoops is our marketing contractor.